Welcome to No Filter. I'm Mia Friedman, and this is the second instalment of my Daddo trifecta. A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed Alison Brahe, or Alison Daddo as she's also known, the Dolly cover girl who grew up, married the hottest man in Australia, who at that time was an actor and TV presenter called Cameron Daddo. And Cameron and Alison moved to America, where their marriage fell apart. Because this was the early 90s and the internet hadn't been invented yet, Alison and Cameron got to shrug off that mantle of being Australia's golden couple and work out their marriage shit far from the eyes of people like me and other women my age who were obsessed with them both. How they did that is a really fascinating story.
I understood that I needed assistance.
And so is Cameron's experience of going from a Rolls Gold Aussie icon and heartthrob to a door-to-door salesman who couldn't afford to feed his family and back again. You don't have to have listened to my interview with Alison to enjoy this episode with Cameron, but if you did miss it, you may want to go back into the feed and gobble it up. Just like I wanted to gobble up both Alison and Cameron when they came into the Mamma Mia office. That's how delightful they both are. They came in separately, and honestly, I would love to have a job where I could just, watch them all day and be in their orbit, because that wouldn't be weird. They're both that magnetic though. You just want to be around them. It's almost like they actually emit some kind of golden light. I'm afraid you can't see that because this is a podcast. But Lord above, they are not just good looking, they are good people. You're going to enjoy this interview with Cameron Daddo. Do you want cans on?
Do I need them?
Well, I like them,
No.
but that's me.
Okay.
Don't put them on. You look like you've never seen them before. You're a radio host. What are these things? What do I do with them?
Well, I go to left and right. I can't see anymore. I'm blind close up. So.
Yeah, it happens when you're
When
in
did
your
that
20s.
happen?
In your 20s, it happens.
I reckon it turned 45 and that's when it happened to me. Now that I'm only 46.
Yeah, my eyes are okay. When did you turn 50?
March 2 years ago.
March.
I was 42 for
a long time.
I was 42 for 7 years, and then when I turned 50, I was 50.
Do you have to be young as a guy in Hollywood? Is it the same?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think you can have grey hair in Hollywood and be okay.
Yeah. Did you
Depends
go grey?
who you are, though.
Did you go grey happily, or were you like, should I dye it? Will I not get parts?
I started going grey at 23.
Oh.
So I always did the temples, just coloured them in.
Yeah.
Because I had no problem with it. It was a producer actually said to me, I was shooting something, I was in Canada, and he said, we need to colour in your temples because it frames your face better. Oh. So in film, it was getting washed out because of the grey and because there was dark.
Yeah.
There was some dark.
Some.
And he said, we need to colour it in because it frames your face better. And I thought, oh, that's very interesting. So I started looking at it from a viewer point of view and an aesthetic point of view. And I was like, oh, it actually works. So now that I'm more grey than pepper.
Well, you're completely salt now.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
thanks
men can
for
be.
speaking the truth.
Men can be, though.
Yeah, of course, so can women.
Well, Ali can't be. I mean,
She doesn't have a grey hair in her head, but her father doesn't either. And he's 84. Right. So it's
there
just
aren't a
genes.
lot of women that are grey though. It's funny, my kids when they were little, they used to look in storybooks, and there would always be like the illustration of the nana would always have grey hair,
yeah,
and they
right.
would never recognise that as the nana because their nanas don't have grey hair. They don't see older women with grey hair. Their nanas dye their hair.
If you talk to a lot of old people today, that older people, I should say, they often feel invisible, and I understand that as I get greyer. Are you grey?
It's funny you say that.
colour your
I
hair?
had my crayon out this morning and was just doing a bit of, I get my roots done for sure. Yeah.
So if you let the roots go, you would have grey.
Not
longish
completely.
hair?
I don't know how much
does that
where the
work?
grey would stop. That's true. Well, because I've been dyeing my hair for so long that I don't know where the grey would actually stop. Maybe I would be all grey. No, I don't think so. I think it's more just at the kind of at the front and at the around the head bit.
I think you might be telling yourself a story there. It's okay though.
I'm feeling good. This is always how I imagined my conversation if I ever met Cameron Daddo in real life going, that we would be talking about my grey hair and how old I was in my teenage dreams. Okay, just jumping in here for a second because I realised that in my intro, I didn't actually give you any facts about Cameron Daddo. I just kind of, gushed. So, Cameron is the eldest of the infamous Daddo brothers. There are 5 of them. Cameron's the oldest. Then there are twins Andrew and Jamie. Then there is Logie, and there's also sister Belinda. In the 80s, Cameron was the host of a children's television show called Off the Dish, which soon led to him hosting his own cartoon show, which was called The Cameron Daddo Cartoon Show. From 1987 to 1988, he hosted dating show Perfect Match. Isn't that funny? Because so many people remember Cameron from Perfect Match, and in my mind, he was the host of it for like 10 years. But in fact, it was only 1 year, and he was only 21 at the time, making him the youngest host of an Australian game show. Then he moved to acting. He was the lead in the telly movie Boney, and he won the Silver Logie Award for Most Popular Actor in 1992 for Golden Fiddles and in 1993 for Tracks of Glory. Fun fact, in 1992, Cameron released a solo album called A Long Goodbye. We've been watching clips of this, and they are glorious, quite frankly. We will pop some on the Mamma Mia podcast Facebook page. Around that time, he met and married Dolly covergirl Alison Brahe. They were married within, I think, about 18 months of meeting. And he and Ali moved to LA a few months later to pursue Cameron's acting career. It went so well at first. He got a regular gig, a lead role, playing a photographer in the Melrose Place spin-off Models Inc. about a model agency. He then got lots of small but important roles on shows like The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, FX, Hope Island, Anne of Green Gables, CSI Miami, The Mentalist, 24, Leverage, and he even hosted a reality show called Pirate Master. But while all of that sounds pretty impressive when you kind of list it, remember this is over a 20-year period. He had 3 kids at home and a wife to support. Things were tough. Back to Cam.
But don't you feel wiser?
I do. I think that's more about therapy though than grey hair. I think that having therapy in my 30s meant that I'm enjoying my 40s a lot.
There you go.
Yeah. I spoke to Alison about that as well, about how therapy is just so important. Have you had it?
Yeah. Lots, hours. If you've spoken to Alison, you would know I've had hours of it. No. I never thought about doing it, and it only happened, it's like I'm getting into Scientology. The way it came about for me was
What was your gateway drug into
exactly,
therapy?
Well, I snapped my knee. That's what it was. I snapped my knee playing football with a Scientologist. Can you believe that?
It all comes around.
It does. And they said, Tom will fix it. Tom will fix it. It's like, Tom will not fix my knee. So anyway, Ali and I would go to this place called Martin Henry's in Los Angeles. And anyway, I went in with my knee all covered in bandages and stuff like that because I really did do a number on it. And as I walked up to the counter, the lady said to me, who was behind the desk, said, "Oh, what'd you do to your knee?" And I said, "I snapped it playing football on the weekend." And she said, "Are you scared of moving forward, are you?" And I said, "Oh, really? Really?"
So
Because that was a comment that my mum would say, and it just jarred me in that moment. And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Go see that lady." And behind me was a wall, and there was several 8x10s on the wall of pictures of people. And there's this Puerto Rican woman on the wall. And I said, "Who's she?" And she said, "Oh, she does body, mind, health and fitness." And I just looked at her, and it was more out of spite, actually, at that moment. I said, "Okay, I will. Give me your number." So I went and saw this lady, and I know Ali spoke about her as well. She's ended up becoming the godmother to Lotus, our oldest daughter, and we've known her for, 25 years. And she's become part of our family, but hours of sitting in front of her. She got me on set. It wasn't so much therapy, but we weren't putting it in that box, but it was understanding the emotional and physical and spiritual aspects of the body, and that how much emotional stuff does affect our physicality. And so I rehabbed this knee. I mean, I did surgery, had a full knee reconstruction, did the whole thing. And she had me running on set across a sand dune on the set of Models Inc., shooting the pilot within 9 weeks
Oh, my God.
And the surgeon was like, "You're getting better too fast. What are you doing?"
Scientology, you said.
Yes. Ask Tom.
Tom fixed it.
Yeah, Tom fixed it. And it was basically working on that level as well, not just the physical of strengthening the knee, but it was working on the emotional aspect as well. And it was, coming back to the lady at Martin Henry's fitness centre who said, you're scared of moving forward. That's what it was. It was a complete lock-up. And knees are about flexibility and ability to move forward, and fear is often resolved through the knees.
I was talking to Ali. You guys split up, and my husband and I split up as well. And we both had therapy with the same therapist but separately.
Yeah.
And she said the same with you guys.
Yeah.
You saw the same therapist but separately.
Correct.
Were you resistant to that? Because a lot of men are resistant to therapy.
No, I wasn't, because I understood that I needed assistance. I needed to understand what my behaviour was all about. And I knew that innately. So I was not only seeing Doreen with Ali, doing double sessions and single sessions, I was also seeing an accredited therapist. So I was doing one session with her, and I was in AA as well.
How old were you?
28.
That's pretty young.
Yeah, I was 28. But I was in AA not because of a drinking issue. It was more to understand addiction and to understand my addiction.
To alcohol?
No, to a two-legged bottle. That's what I called it.
A two-legged model?
A two-legged bottle.
Slash
I
model.
had a two-legged
Yeah,
bottle
right.
model,
Yeah.
whoever was looking at me going, "Hey, you're pretty hot."
Yeah.
My confidence was so what's the word? Well, unconfident, or just,
But how? Like, you were every girl's dream, every woman's dream.
didn't see it that way. Didn't come, or from my perspective. One thing I've learnt now is that if you're having a conversation with someone, you can imagine a beach ball between you, and you're looking at red, blue, and yellow, and I'm looking at green and orange and pink. Right, so in order for me to understand your perspective, either I twist the beach ball around and see the colours you're seeing. But the issue here, what you're talking about, is me being every girl's dream or whatever. I did not see it that way.
Not even with that much external validation.
There wasn't that much. I mean, I didn't see it. Ali would say to me, she'd go, "Oh my God, did you not pick that up?" And I go, "Nah." Did not see that, did not sense it. It felt like I was pretty oblivious to it. When I did come my way, I got it, and it was so seductive. And often, sometimes I couldn't. If I was alone in another city and I'd had a few drinks and there was that coming at me, pretty hard to say no at that point.
You said you were too young to get married. You were only 26, weren't you?
Just 26, yeah.
Yeah. What would be your advice to your son, who's a strapping young man of 17, taller than you? He looked. I saw a photo.
Not quite, but he's not quite.
He looks. I mean, I know you can't tell much from photos, but he seems confident and extroverted. He just seems that way.
Yeah. Oh, look, the River who presents at home evidently is quite different to the one that's out in the street, because we'll have teachers will say to us, "Oh, he's so talkative and chatty, and he's funny and smart." And not saying that I don't think he's smart, because I do think he's incredibly intelligent, but he gets home, comes in, chows through half a loaf of bread and whatever else is in the fridge, and then disappears back up into his room. And then you go, "Hey, Riv, it's dinner." "Huh? Okay, right. Can you pick your towel up?" Please pick your towel up. Please pick one of those 5 towels up.
Yeah, that's going to happen for a few more years yet.
Well, we've been through Lotus and we've got Bodhi to go yet, so I'm quite aware of that's part of the deal.
Yeah, but how's having a son different? Like, what have you? Is there a responsibility you feel as a man teaching your son about women, about the world?
I see other dads with their sons. And I remember when Riv was old enough to hold a ball, a tennis ball, a football or something. I remember grabbing that ball, just a little soft ball, and saying, "Hey, Rivy, come over here," and throwing the ball at him. And he just looked at it as it hit his chest and fall on the ground. And he's like, "Why the hell did you throw that at me?" And it's been that way pretty much ever since. It's a good metaphor. So I've had to find different ways to relate with Riv. Often that's been difficult. He's artistic, which is great, because I am too. Yet he doesn't want to compete or doesn't want to share that sort of stuff. He's a magnificent cook.
I read he's a pastry chef.
He is, and he made chocolate eclairs for us on the weekend, and they were
moly.
ridiculous from scratch.
That's really creative.
Yeah, my mum and my brother are there. My sister came over for dinner, and they're like, so, did you make these? Yeah. Did you make them from scratch? Yeah. You made the pastry? Yeah. That's all he says. He doesn't really go into it. But I'll go in there. Can I help you? No. Can I wash up? No. Which invariably I do anyway, because he's stuck at washing up, so I have to re-wash up his stuff. But that's okay. So we've had to find different ways, and I've tried everything from rock climbing to fishing to, come on, look at the footy with me. Nah. Golf. I got him because he likes to drive the golf cart.
Oh, yeah, right. He doesn't like to play golf, I think
just drive the golf cart.
It's funny with your kids, isn't it? Because you think you know what your kids are going to be like, and I guess you think they're going to be like you. And then each one of them is just a surprise. They're their own person.
And that's what we need to nurture and protect with them, because I truly feel like that. And they can't, and that's our ego. I'll speak for myself. My ego trying to mould him or one of my daughters into the way I want them to be. And that's not why they're here. I really do feel like we come here with these gifts, and if we don't use them, we haven't actually fulfilled the purpose of our life. And often, as young people, we're so easily corralled and influenced by people. And I'd rather just let him go. Of course, I want to set boundaries for him. And that's been hard as a dad, to set a boundary that he can play in. But I get the feeling that he actually likes it, that he's got a boundary and that he knows that there's a curfew, and that because in setting boundaries, our kids come to understand, whether it's conscious or unconscious, that we care about them. Because I know people that didn't get boundaries when they were young, and they felt like their mum and dad didn't give a hoot about them. So I think it's really important. So it's hard, and it's hard. I mean, on the weekend, River's asking a couple of pretty big questions about why we have certain rules in place. And, I did most of the talking, probably way too many words. That's my problem. I just don't know when to shut up with him, or, so I just talk too much. But it was just like, okay, after we had resolved that, and he'd left, Ali just turns to me and she says, yeah, parenting's ace, isn't it? Isn't it fun?
It's funny, like not a lot is spoken about having older kids. Like your eldest daughter, Lotus, is 21, is she?
Yep.
And River's 17, and then you've got an 11-year-old.
Yep.
How, when you talk about you've got a lot of rules, how have you found that transition with Lotus and River? My eldest is 19, and I went through it in the last couple of years, going through parenting a kid to parenting a young adult. How have you managed that? Have you got any wisdom to share on that? Or is it different with River than it was with Lotus?
Well, it is different. One, they're two
kids.
different people, exactly.
But at what point do you stop having rules?
When would I stop having rules?
Yeah.
I think, one, if they're living under your roof, then those rules apply. When it's okay, so we're all living in this house. You need to be mindful of who's in the house and respectful. Like I said to River, I went up and I spoke to him last night, just briefly. I said, listen, these are the rules that we have, and I know it's tough, and I think it's important to remember as a parent how we were when we were that age. And I go, when I was 17, I was out there. I mean, I was carrying on with all sorts of behaviour that if mum and dad knew about it,
same,
they would have freaked out, I think. But they
I feel
didn't
like
know.
we had a lot more privacy than our kids have.
No question.
In that way. Because you're right. We were all, the stuff I got up to, the stuff my husband got up to. But kids, I think it's harder for them to sneak around and do stuff. Maybe I'm just naive, but
I think they're always going to get River will always, he knows that. He will always get what he wants. He knows how to do that. And he's so perfectly named because he's a river and he will wear you down. Like the Colorado created the Grand Canyon. He will wear you down, and he knows that. And so he's gotten smarter about it too. So he's not as overt about it now. He's very gotten subtle. And so I thanked him last night. I said, listen, I know this is tough and I know it feels hard right now, but you are in year 11 at school and you've got 2 years. You've got not even 2 years. He's got 4 terms of school to go, or 5 terms. I think it's 4 terms in 1 year now, isn't it? So,
it's hard when they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but they're just not there yet.
Yeah, and I said, and that's it, mate. Just focus on that. Get through that. And then may I say at the same time, you have shown so much maturity in the last. I've seen how much you've grown, and I see it, and I applaud you for it. So keep going. I said it'll all work its way out, and we are doing the best we can do for you. We're not attempting here to, and that's when I've got to shut up because I'll start going, you know, and it's like, and all
kids love it when you talk, don't they?
Oh my God, because all
teenagers especially.
It's that Charlie Brown.
Talk
like
more.
this,
Tell me more,
yeah.
Mum and Dad, about what it was like when you were 17. I'm really interested. It really helps me to resolve my own issues.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Twain has a great quote, you know, how he felt like how stupid he was, how stupid he thought his father was up to about the age of 18. But then when he turned 21, he couldn't believe how much his father knew.
Oh, it's so true.
And you know, I've had lots of time with my mum and dad of late and over the last few years because I've been back and forth from Los Angeles and I always stay with them when I get to Melbourne. And, you know, I just remember, you know, how much I love hearing their wisdom. And but I also remember how smart I thought I was when I was, you know, 17, 18, 19.
That's when you know
and I was
everything.
so insecure. That was the word I was looking for before. Just that insecure feeling of not trusting that I'm here for a reason.
You and Alison have gone from big fish in a small pond in Australia when you were everything before you left to go to LA. You were the most famous couple in Australia. Then you went to LA. You were small fish, tiny little fish. What was that like? That must have been a little bit of a head fuck. Like, I can't imagine you being the don't you know who I am kind of guy.
Oh,
but
no.
But the indignity of doing auditions and what's that like? I always think that as an actor it must be so hard that you rely on other people to let you do what you love.
Well, that's the illusion of it. That's the giving up of power, and if any actors are listening right now, you have the power. You have a phone.
How do you have the power? Oh, you can make your own art.
You make your own stuff. If you're not being picked, go make your own, and that's how you empower yourself.
But you didn't have that power back in the olden days before phones.
No, but I had, you know, if I really was to be honest about it, I knew people that could do stuff, and it was a matter of being, you know, how much do you want it? I mean, if you're out there, you want to be an actor to get famous or to be, you know, to be validated. It's a very lonely place, and I call him my mentor now, a guy called Larry Moss, who directed me in Holding the Man, the play in Los Angeles. And Larry's probably he is one of America's most esteemed acting coaches and directors. And Larry would often talk about do your work, just do your work. The red carpet is dirty, people. Stay off the red carpet, just do your work. And let your work speak for you. So in answer to your question, no, I never played the I'm Cameron Daddo. Actually, I did. I played it once. It went very badly at Danny's Disco on the central coast of New South Wales, and we couldn't get in, and I was doing Off the Dish. I was 19. And my mates go, hey, come on, you got to get us in, you're famous. So I walked up to the bouncer and they're pushing me up there. This is central coast of Sydney or New South Wales. And they walk up, they go, just tell them who you are. All right, I'll tell them who I am. Listen, mate, look, there's just 4 of us, and I'm Cameron Daddo. And he goes, I don't give a who you are. You're not getting in. You got jeans on. And out walked one of the camera operators from Channel 10 off his absolute nut, drunk. And he goes, Camo, how are you? And he's got his, you know, David Jones slacks on with a pair of vinyl shoes and a collared shirt. He could get in. Yeah. He was drunk. He goes, I had the perfect night. Had the perfect night. I said, what, Gaz? And he goes, you just got to punch up. I'm pissed. I'm about to get a blowjob.
Trifecta.
Let's go home. I'm done. Anyway.
And you just got knocked back.
Anyway,
so saying,
we
don't you know
could
who
not
I am?
get in to Danny's disco.
Did you have to leave Australia because you were too famous, in a way?
No, didn't have to leave Australia.
Why did you want to?
Because you only get one chance at a first impression. And my first impression with Australia, a lot of Australia was a 21-year-old game show host, skinny as a pole, in shiny suits and spiky black hair.
I can't believe you're only 21. You seemed so old to me then because I'm so much younger than you.
I was just 21.
Yeah, that's so ridiculous.
That was that. So I was fighting that, though I was getting in rooms. I was getting in, what I mean by that, I was getting in front of people. Like, I remember right when I chose to do acting, I quit Perfect Match and I'd done Big River, and that was a big success for everyone.
You got Logies.
I got some Logies.
Got some Logies.
I remember I was down to, it was me and Paul Mercurio for Strictly Ballroom. A couple of other ones came up, and me and one other guy. I kept missing out. And I felt it was because I was not, again, the insecurity popped up. I couldn't see the glass was half full, that I was actually getting to this point. But I was like, I've got to do something different. What about if I go to LA and start again and go to class? No one knows who I am. But at that point, when I was in those rooms in Los Angeles, I felt like I was the most experienced version of me. Like, here I was with guys who were not known as well, but they had no clue that I had a good body of work behind me in Australia.
But you didn't have the baggage of
being Cameron Daddo. I didn't have the baggage of being Cameron Daddo. So I know Ali, she let out a huge sigh of relief when we were sitting having lunch one day, and she said, I looked at her and she just looked so relaxed. And I said, how you doing? And she said, I can actually sit here and watch people. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, couldn't ever do that in the last 5 years in Australia, because I remember this. You'd be at the Manly Corso having fish and chips, and she'd have a group of girls not 10 feet away saying, and she's not that good. Oh, look at her hair.
Oh,
and she's this, and they were, the bitchy girl thing. So Al would have to put up with that. When she moved to Los Angeles, she was no longer Alison Brahe,
anonymous,
and she could do whatever she wanted to do. So there was a certain amount of freedom in that for both of us.
Well, you were anonymous. What point do you go, I really want to act, but I'm not getting enough work to support my family? Do I have to give it a minute? Do I have to let it go?
Yeah, well, that did come up. Not for a long time, though.
You got roles, and then you talk about it being like carrots. You'd get just enough work to keep you on the hook.
Yeah, that's the thing. Through the 90s, in film and TV, there's a thing called a call sheet that comes out every day, and you have your call sheet with your scenes that you're going to do and who's on the call sheet, and then the lead of the show will be number 1, going all the way through to guy on the left holding a stick, and he's number 47 or something like that. So through the 90s, I was number 1 through 3 a lot on call sheets of the work that I was doing, whether they were my shows or they were TV movies or whatever. And then through a series of crazy events, actors' strikes, writers' strikes,
GFC,
digital, all the GFC happened obviously later on. Things changed, and we now had 3 kids, and we've gone through all sorts of things. And so it got very tense there for a while on several occasions, and then something would, another show would open up, and suddenly you have that human thing where you forget that there was this moment where we had $100 in the bank and now we're doing okay. And then suddenly, and that's the nature of this. If you're going to choose the entertainment business, you do it because you love it, and that's all you want to do. Because otherwise, it's too hard.
Did you feel a big responsibility as the breadwinner?
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot. Especially like Ali. She used to work when we first met. She was doing very, very well. She had a house and all that sort of stuff, and we pulled everything together, and we've had a great time. And so,
did you ever consciously say, "Okay, I'm going to be the breadwinner. You can wind back on modelling"? Like, did you ever actually negotiate that, or did it just kind of fall into place?
She said, "I can't do this anymore. if she went to England or Europe, things would have been very different for her on the modelling thing, and she might have stayed doing it. She was like, I don't like it, for one. Why do I need to do it? And I was like, well, I'm on a show now, and we're getting this pots of money coming in, so we don't need to worry about this. So
did that change the power balance in your relationship at all?
No, I don't think so. Only in that, and this is what I've come to understand through therapy, or through reflecting, that because I was making the money, then I was the boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
how
my
can it
money.
not be like that?
Yeah, it's my money.
So she has to ask for money.
Yeah. So and then I realised that, okay, she's raising our children, and probably the most important job in the world is a mother's or the parent raising a child, because you are being the one that's assisting that child's formation, who that person is actually going to be. And I said to her, look, well, for one, if you were a babysitter, we'd be paying you, what, $15-20 an hour. So why don't you do some, when you get a quiet moment, do some sums and go, all right, so if $20 an hour for 24 hours a day, maybe knock 5 off because you're asleep, add that up for the week, and then that's your pay. And if you want to take that and do whatever you want with it, that's yours. And she's like, I don't need to do that. And I said, yeah, but you need to know that you don't need to ask me permission to go and have lunch with your girlfriends or anything. Just let me know that you've done it, so I know there's enough money in the account to cover it.
So did she ever say to you, we need something more solid? You need to give up the dream?
No, she never said give up the dream. She never said stop acting. She said stop acting if you don't want to do it. If you're going to do it half-assed, or if you're not going to dive in, if you're really not going to dive in and invest, and if you're just going to skate along doing the same old shtick, is it really working for you anymore? Are you satisfied about it? See, Al's smart. She asks questions. And that's what I think that's what is amazing about her. She's not someone that tells you how it is, because as soon as you tell someone about how it is, you're going to defend your position.
Yeah.
And naturally. She doesn't do that. She'll go, how is that? What's going on? What's happening for you right now? And that's when I go,
just what my therapist says. What's happening for you right now? Yeah. And I'm like, I know it makes you go like that, but it does make you go, what is happening for me?
Think about it, and if you can stay there, and that's what I always come back to, is that during the most difficult times in our marriage, we both stayed. We both stayed and answered the questions and hung out.
It's a choice, isn't it, being married? Like
every day.
People seem to think it's a choice you make once when you decide to get married. But as I learned, and as you guys learnt, no doubt, you have to keep making that choice.
Every day.
Because you'll always cross paths with people who you find attractive. You'll always have days where you think, I just can't do this anymore. And you just got to keep making that choice. You
do. And I mean, I go away a lot on location. I mean, I was away last year for 12 months.
That's a long time.
It's too long. And that's one of the reasons why we moved out here, is because we moved to Australia, is because it was like, this was the second go at it within 3 years that I've been away for 12 months.
How did Australian work start to come back? Like, where did that even come from?
I think, there was a moment, the GFC happened. I know Ali talked about this, but we just kind of lost everything. So anyway, we're almost out of money and we've got to sell our house, and in comes an audition for Beaconsfield, the movie about the Tasmanian mining disaster.
And why did they come to you?
You
hadn't been in Australia for 20 years.
Yeah, pretty much. I did a movie a couple of years before that, which I still say it's some of my best work I've ever done, for Channel 7, called Scorched, which was a movie about bushfires with Vince Colosimo. And it was a great experience. Tony Tills directed it, amazing guy. I had just a magnificent professional experience on that. So Beaconsfield comes in, and this is where I have such gratitude for my wife as a person, as a sounding board. And we were having a tough time with money. I was sleeping in the garage. I'd converted. I learned how to build, so I've converted our garage into a studio into a media room, music room, rumpus room, whatever you want. Did the, put in skylights and bifolding doors and did all that. Anyway, I was sleeping out there because the kids, and I'm going all over the place, because the kids and Al had basically, I use this word purposefully, staged an intervention of Daddy.
Yeah.
And they got me and they went, okay, Daddy, we need to talk to you, says Al. Okay, Lotus, you go first. All right, Dad. Were you just really grouchy and mean? And River's like, whatever he said, and Bodhi's probably about 5, and she went, yeah. So I was like, you know what? Okay, I hear you. I need to spend some time to figure this out. So I went and I slept in the back room, and I said, I'm doing this. I said to the kids, this is what I'm doing so that I can be a better dad, because I'm under strain right now. And I was just firing all this stuff out at them.
So you took yourself away from the family and quarantined yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I still had dinner and everything with them. I just slept out there, and they would come in and jump on the bed in the morning, and anyway, so it was during that time Beaconsfield came in, and they wanted a self-tape, which is videotape yourself and email it back. So I did that. Ali read it off screen for me, and I'll never forget it because we hung a quilt over the cupboard door in the back room, this navy blue quilt, and I stood in front and I did these lines, and she's like, "What the hell's that?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Cam, just stop acting. Stop acting. Just say it." She got really mad with me.
Tough love.
And she goes, "Just say the freaking lines." So I was like, well, what am I doing? She goes, just say them. And so we started that way. And it took us, half an hour. She's like, okay, fine, great. Let's go have a cup of tea.
She's the bomb.
Oh, she's awesome. Oh, she's a firecracker. People don't know this about Alison. She cuts to it, and she's so magnificent in her lioness state, Anyway, we sent it off and I got the job. And during that job, so actually I was flying out to Australia, then I got a call from the agent, can you come 2 days earlier? We've got a musical that they want to see you for. Gordon Frost, who were the producers of Big River. I hadn't been on stage for 20 years, and I was like, I don't have any time I don't know the song, I don't know how to, I've got no time to learn these lines. They said they just want to see you. So I landed, went straight to Her Majesty's Theatre in Melbourne and met the producer, did the lines, had a sing with the music director. She's like, oh, you've got notes for days. This is great. I'll teach you the song. Don't worry about it. So suddenly, Legally Blonde turn around and say, we want you for our musical. Beaconsfield's about to go shoot that. So that's it. Just look, I think what it comes down to is energetics. And when you do things, if you take action, things start to roll. But if you sit back and wait, not only do you put on weight, but you will wait. But if you take action on stuff, and your dreams don't come true without action. So here we are. So that's how we kind of roll now. It's just like, don't wait for anyone to make your dreams come true. Just keep taking the steps. And we'll see, we'll see.
Did coming back to Australia feel like you'd left America before you were finished, or did it really feel like a positive new chapter a step forward?
I haven't given up my green card, so I don't feel like I haven't put a button on America. I put it on that chapter, 25 years on that chapter's done.
Longer there than you've lived here.
Yeah. Lived longer in America than I have Australia.
But you've kept your accent.
Yeah,
except for the odd, when you say hour, you say hour.
Yeah, someone said that. They said, can I have some sourdough? And they go, sourdough.
Sourdough.
Yeah, let's
How did you keep your accent? Because not every Aussie over there does.
Well, because I don't know. To me, an accent is about finding a rhythm of speech and finding the placement in your body where that is. So I found that place, and I'm able to drop into it as I need to.
And drop out of it.
Yeah. It's the same with putting on an English accent. They speak from a different part of from the tip of the tongue and the teeth and the lips. It's from the front. Americans are more the back of the jaw, so it's a bit more here, there, back here. And Australians are somewhere in betwixt with their mouths closed because we don't want flies to get in.
Do Americans love Aussies?
Yeah, they do.
And was
Well,
that
for
real?
the most part. I mean, yeah,
Were you part
generally.
of that mafia, that Aussie mafia in Hollywood?
No.
You know, the
Not
Nicole and Hugh and Deborah Lee and Naomi and
Well, we know
Anthony
them.
LaPaglia and
Sort
Simon
of.
and Rebecca.
Yeah, I mean, it was never a. When we first arrived, we got there in '92.
You were one of the early arrivals.
Yeah, and Tom Burlinson was living with Deborah Lee Finesse. Deborah Lee and Ali.
Were
and
they a
I,
couple?
No,
just
just great
Yeah,
mates.
yeah.
Great mates.
Yeah.
Beautiful to see them together. They're like brother and sister. Fantastic. Anyway, so we moved into their place. Deborah Lee came back to do a TV show and met this dude called Hugh and ended up marrying him, and that's gone nowhere. It's a very sad story,
Shame about
those
her.
two.
Yeah.
And
she's not talented at all either.
she's a great lady. So look, we've stayed in certain contact with them, but they move in a whole. I mean, they came over once, and there was Deborah Lee. She's such a fan too. She'll go, "Oh my God, look at us last night!" And there she is, and there's Oprah, and there's all these people crowded around. It's like, and there's not an ounce of like, "Oh, isn't my life great?" or there is a celebration of it, but it's not lording it over you. It's just such a natural exuberance,
Like
and
a pinch
still,
yourself.
yeah, and a gratitude for what she has. And I see that. I don't know Hugh very well, but I see that with him as well. So you mentioned LaPaglia and Simon Baker and those guys, and I've actually become good friends with Jonathan LaPaglia, Anthony's brother, and he's pretty much one of the most down-to-earth dudes you'll ever meet. He's just a great guy. And
He used to be a doctor, didn't he?
He was.
Yeah, he dated a friend of
Oh,
mine
he still is.
many years ago.
I mean, he still is a doctor. He's had moments where you talk to him, he'll go, "Jesus, man, I'm thinking about taking up the books again."
Yeah.
It's just that kind of a gig. But we found that we moved away from that sort of world, the Australian mafia Hollywood world, when the kids were at school, because you end up dealing with the parents of the friends of the kids, and so our world just blew wide open when we started school.
Because you become embedded in that community,
Yeah.
and you meet locals, and
they're
that's
great.
so
And
true.
we're so blessed to have this fantastic community of friends
That you left.
in LA that
you
they
had
will
to
tell
leave.
us that you left us.
Big call.
Yeah, it was, but it's not. Like I said, it's by no means. I still have storage space. We've still got stuff there. All my tools are over there because they all run on American Power and music equipment and a couple of couches or whatever. So we've kept the door open, and we're just open to this new challenge of being here in Australia, and there's so much to be excited about being here. This is a great country with amazing opportunities.
Do you feel like a big fish again? Because you guys are big fishers.
Again, I'm not. Sometimes I do, but look, I just finished a play in Melbourne that was called The Haunting, and unfortunately, just not that many people came to see it because people just didn't know it was on, and and we were on a couple of trams and stuff like that. But so it's very. Look, I know Ali said this, and we both believe this, that comparison is the thief of joy. And if I am to put myself, if I compare myself to anybody else and say, "Oh, what if so and so did this part and their name was on the tram instead of mine? Would they have had full houses every night?" I don't. It's so destructive to go to that place.
Acting keeps you humble, doesn't it?
Mate.
Like it seems to really not let you get too big for your boots.
Well, it does if you stay about the work. And if you stay about the work, not how you're affecting or how you might be affecting or not affecting people. I've had too many lessons. I've seen so many different people through the years feel that they're bigger than the job, and watching how that plays out with people in the public, either, right in front of me or... you just got to go, just keep it about the work. Like walking out of a stage door with Rob Mills, with 20-year-old girls or 16-year-old girls. You walk out the stage door with Millsy. Wah! I mean...
How's that? And are they like, who's the granddad?
Yeah, who's the old fella?
Is that your dad, Millsy?
Or not even. They don't even see you. You're just...
You're invisible because
you're just
of your grey
invisible. Yeah. Thanks for mentioning
What's that
again.
like?
So, but I have been in the mills.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right.
Like, what's that like?
Well,
I know comparison is the thief of joy, but do you kind of go, oh, yeah, that was me once?
Yeah, and you do, and you go,
course.
and I go, that was me once. That was cool. And that's the evolved version of it. The unevolved version goes, I'm going to kill mills, or look at
I'm
me,
so
or
old.
I'm going to do something cool and crazy. I'm going to go bang my hair or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just such a destructive path. But if you stay about the work, which I'll come back to the haunting, it was my best work ever. Alison she goes, honey, hats off. That was you hit it. You nailed. I mean, it was the best work ever, and the kids were the same. And so it had to be about that. I had to leave it at that. Just go, okay, that's where I'm at now. The next job I do, which I don't know what it's going to be, but the next thing I'm going to invest myself as deeply as I can to be absolutely 100% happy within myself. Going. I used all my experience of 30 years of working with Academy Award people and all these different people. I can inject that, and I have to stay about the work. Because if I go to what you're suggesting in terms of being, a heartthrob or whatever, it's just not going to happen. If that happens as a result of it, that's fine. That's part of the gig, Okay, that worked. But if you're looking for it and you're trying to create that, I don't know that you can, and certainly not sustain it.
Do you still have therapy?
Not so much. Not so much. What I did have, and I would love to rediscover. I did put an email out to the fathers of the school of my the last school that we were at.
I can't imagine where this is going.
God, I put an email out to the dads, and I just went, I'm having, and it was actually during that time when during that GFC time, and I did. That was the first time I ever took another job outside of the business, which I was terrible at.
You sold water filters,
I sold
right?
water purification systems, and and I had training and all that sort of stuff. But I just
did you sell many?
No, I didn't. In fact, I'm digressing here, and I didn't mean to digress into this place, but I remember sitting at one interview, and it was Merrill Lynch Bank on Wilshire Boulevard. It was major. I mean, this was
sell them water filters.
To sell water filters to Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. In your dreams.
Meryl was like, sure, why don't we make a movie together? I'll play Australian. The dingo's got my baby. But anyway, the lady's sitting there and we're just nutting out this deal, and it was a 6-figure deal, and it was just me. And I'm there and it's all good. And then she stops and she says, were you in here last month selling furniture? And I said, no. She goes, why do I know you? Why do I know you? And I'm like, I don't know. And I said, all right, so back on track. I'll come back and see you at the end of the week or whatever. And she's like, great, no problem. And I turn and I walk, and I'm 10 steps down the hallway, and she turns and I hear this, a kiss at midnight. And I went, oh, and I stopped and I was like, what? And she turns, she goes, I knew it was you. And so A Kiss at Midnight was a movie of the week that I made with Faith Hill.
Did you get the deal?
Did not get the deal. And she goes, why are you doing this? And I said,
why do you reckon?
We're going to eat,
Yeah.
It's a tough business I'm in. She goes, I loved you in that movie. And why are you speaking with that Australian accent right now? So bizarre. Anyway, so I'll come back to what I was talking about, because it is
email
important.
to the dads.
The dads.
Yeah.
And I said, if any of you guys are having difficulty right now in any way, shape, or form, and you want to meet together and have a chat, or just have a yak, just let's do it. And so I said, I'll be in my room, my back room at the house. I'll be in my back room at 7:30, and the door will be open till 10:30. I know 18 dudes turned up.
Wow.
18 guys turned up. Some turned up with bottles of wine and 6 packs of beer, which I immediately said, okay, we're going to leave those till afterwards. But here's what we're going to do. This is my idea. We'll go around a circle, introduce ourselves. And it was based on, you can't tell anyone what to do. There was no advice, Albert, to be given. But if you did relate to a certain scenario, you could tell what you did in that scenario. And so Ali turns around, she goes, oh my God, all the mothers at school are just in love with you now. And I'm like, why? And she goes, because they just do, because of what
helped.
you did for the guys, you know. And
was it only one time?
No, I think we had 4 sessions.
Yeah.
And then I got a film. And then I left, and then we never picked it up again. But I ended up picking up another similar group right before I left for a year. And so when you ask me about therapy, if I'm still doing it, that's how I roll now. It's more with guys that you just share what's going on, because then you realise you're not the only one.
So important.
And I'll ask for advice if I want it, but I'd much rather hear someone else go, this is what I did.
Men aren't very good at taking advice. They don't like it. But you're 1,000% right. They learn by hearing stories from each other.
Yeah, it's storytelling, and it's also a venting, event of just phenomenal. You can get to, and if you're not feeling judged, that's the main thing. Is there's no judgment of everything's right. It's all okay.
There's a show in that. There's a script in that. Just quietly.
Maybe I'm already working on it.
Maybe you should be already working on it. If you're not, it sounds like you are. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Welcome home, Cameron Daddo. We are so thrilled that you're back.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a delight to talk to you. I don't know who I like more, you or your wife. It's a tough call. Oh, how good's he? And how much does he sound like his brother? Of course, his brother is going to be part 3 of this Daddo trifecta. Andrew Daddo. There's a lot of Daddos. There's 5 Daddos plus Alison. I'm going to work my way through them. No, I'll probably stop at Andrew. But Andrew's got a story that's completely different and is fascinating in its own right. So that's going to be coming up soon. Of course, Andrew is the co-host of the #1 family podcast in Australia. It's called This Glorious Mess. He co-hosts it with our own Holly Wainwright. And the two of them are completely hilarious. They've got the most funny banter. My kids are as obsessed with this podcast as me, and a lot of people that listen to it don't even have kids, so I don't think that it's like a parenting podcast. It's not actually for kids. I don't know why my kids are listening to it, but it's a lot of fun. Anyway, back to Cameron, another Daddo. It was funny, after he left, we had a photo. You can actually see me glowing in the photo. And then all the 40-something women in the office, there are about, how many? 4 of us, maybe, Lies? 4? 3? All were in a flutter. And they're like, yes, I Cameron Daddo. And they all came and had a photo while the millennials looked on perplexed as to why the old ladies were so excited about the very tall guy with the grey hair. Did you enjoy that as much as I did? It was a really great interview. He's such an interesting guy. I wish I could explain to you what his face and his eyes look like when he talks about Alison. And she's the same when she talks about him, not in a like kind of, you know, people when they just meet and they fall in love and they're all just like, it's like there's some scar tissue there. And I think that's what makes it so powerful, just the bond that they have and the connection that they have and the storms that they've walked through to the other side. If you enjoyed this podcast, I also sometimes interview people whose surnames aren't Daddo. There are some past episodes that you might really love, and you can subscribe to Mamma Mia. Oh, that's not what this podcast is called. It's called No Filter. I also host another podcast. I co-host it with 2 other amazing women, Monique Bowley and Jessie Stevens, called Mamma Mia Out Loud, where we talk about the news of the week through the eyes of a woman in her 20s, her 30s and her 40s. And you can subscribe to those 2 podcasts and the other podcast that I co-host called Tell Me It's Going to Be Okay, which is about Trump. So there's a whole lot of podcasts for you to subscribe to. The best thing to do is to download the Mamma Mia podcast app in the App Store, or you can find these podcasts on Spotify and wherever you get podcasts. I'm loving Spotify sick at the moment, but probably the Mamma Mia podcast app is the best one. It doesn't crash. My iTunes podcast app's crashing a little bit lately, but the Mamma Mia podcast app never crashes. And it's also, if you've got someone that you want to tell about podcasts that doesn't really understand how to do it yet, it's a very simple, easy way to get them into it. But please share this podcast. We make about 18 podcasts here at Mamma Mia every week or so, and the more people that know about us, the more podcasts we can make and the longer we can keep making them and the more regularly. So the way to do that is to actually share this podcast with someone Share it on Facebook. There's a little share icon in the corner of your phone that you'll see. Leave us a review on iTunes. That really, really helps. 5 stars really help, but the reviews are particularly helpful. So if you can do that. You can look back in the feed for No Filter, and someone just said to me, someone in here said, I feel like I've spent my whole weekend with you because I was spring cleaning my house and I listened to 9 hours of No Filter. So some of the interviews we do, because they really don't date, some of my favourites have been Roxy Jasenko. If you think you know the Sweaty Betty founder in all her Instagram glory and you think you've got really preconceived ideas about her, listen to that interview. That's probably the one people most often comment on when they say it really changed their mind about someone. Also Jackie Lambie. I love doing that. People say that about Jackie Lambie. I've also interviewed Debbie Malone, who's a psychic detective. A lot of people talking about that. Nikki Gemmell, who is just extraordinarily delightful to talk to, as always, and many others. Malcolm Turnbull's in there as well, and he tells the best story about meeting his wife and them getting married. You can email us anytime with a guest or a suggestion at podcast@mamamia.com.au. You can also subscribe to my newsletter at miafriedman.com. Follow us on Facebook. Come to mamamia.com.au. And we will see you on the internet. This show, I shouldn't forget, is produced by Liza Ratliff, who's looking at me across the table. The reason I didn't say it, Liza, is because my computer just ran out of batteries, so I can't see my script. I'm now winging it as opposed to what I usually do. So it was produced by Liza Ratliff and also edited by Liza Ratliff, who is my partner in crime in this podcast. Our head of podcast is Monique Bowley, and our head of entertainment is Holly Wainwright. Thank you for listening. I'm Mia Friedman. Until next time, lots of love.